Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Modern SaaS Podcast. Yag, we were chatting about some of the demo related back and forth feedback session on our internal Slack. And then you mentioned that Aditya, we should have this podcast. So here we are. Do you want to dive into details? Like, why do you think this is something important that we should be discussing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are so many aspects in a demo that, needs a lot more attention
Hmm.
because every touch point in a conversation is the kind of experience that you generate and you show that, hey, either I'm really invested in this conversation, I want to give you this good experience,
Hmm.
or it can come off like, hey, there are lot many set of things to do here. Like say, I might have to do a small talk with you to get to know you better initially and then go to the demo and all of that. But
Hmm.
it should not come across as I'm trying to check off things in my list, but it should feel like I'm genuinely doing it. I've done some homework. I'm coming to you and having this conversation and I'm genuinely interested. And that's the feeling. And I'm sure, all these three or four areas that happen within before a demo starts and throughout that process, there are a lot many things. And looking at some of the feedback that you gave internally, I thought this is really really helpful for the larger community and maybe we should throw enough light on it. So let's
Hmm.
start one by one. Let's start with the first thing. First thing is the initial small talk that people often do. How can we improve that experience? It should not be like, yeah, I'm asking this and then regardless of what you do next I'll go into the demo, that's it. So how should a small talk be?
Yeah, I think small talk is important. And the reason it is important is because that's how you're building rapport. And
Yeah.
you're getting the feel of someone else, how they are, who they are, what do they care about. And probably also you're killing the time while other people are joining in. So it's important that how well you run that as well. Most often, where you probably must have observed this, my pet peeve used to be when I see people, when I join the call and people ask me, where are you calling from? And then I'll talk about California, San Francisco, and then they'll start the weather and this and that. And I get that. I understand that the weather, talking about weather is probably the easiest and the most common thing. Sometimes people talk about what's now have on their Zoom background or their virtual background or maybe the real background, and there's a small talk around that as well, and that's good. What I don't like when people ask this, start the question where are you calling from? The reason I think that's not a great question is less about, I'm not discouraging having a small talk. I'm discouraging come up prepared. That information is available on LinkedIn. It's you can easily look. So anything that's publicly available information, you should do that research. When you ask me that question, Aditya, where are you calling from? Instantly I realized that you have not done research and you just showed up here. It's a very small, subtle thing, but I feel like that's where the impression starts. Immediately I'm thinking, have you not looked at my LinkedIn profile? Have you not done research on my company, who I am, all of that stuff? So I start having those questions. And that's how, and yes, with the remote work, maybe my location on LinkedIn might be something else, but I might be on a different city right now and on completely different map of the world, and that's okay. But you can at least start saying that, "Hey, Aditya, saw that you're based out of San Francisco. Are you still there?" And then ask about the weather and all of that. That
Yeah.
still earns a respect that you have done the research and you asked for the permission rather than asking a lazy question. This is where what I don't like when reps become lazy, and that is not the modern selling. That is not the modern SaaS how it should be. You should come prepared. You should tell me, and the information that's available in public forums, you should leverage that. That's a small thing, but that's how I would say it.
Yeah, I would add one more to this. I've often seen people asking, "What does your company do?"
Mm.
That's probably one of the worst. I would say. Location. Yeah, you can forgive that a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're going into a discovery conversation, and you need to contextualize things as much as possible, and you need to understand the fundamental of what somebody does. You can maybe ask them, "Hey, I think that you're doing this. Correct me if I'm wrong, and can you give me a little more detail so that I can make this a better experience for you?"
And I would even say a lot of the times what happens is that if you visit the website, maybe you don't understand completely what they do, and that's
Yeah.
okay. You are visiting that, doing that research for 5 minutes, and they have been running that business for many years, probably, right? So, but still telling that hey, I looked at your website, I understand probably you're doing this financial something, so on and so forth. How has been impacted with the recent changes in macroeconomics? What's happening? Is it helping your business? And any particular challenges or things that you have been planning to do? What this suggests that on one hand you have done some research, and it's okay to not completely understand, and you can ask probably follow-up question. This is what I understand. What do you Can you explain a little bit more? Is that correct understanding, and what specific things in that what you do? But then you're also trying to be curious to learn about them. And
Yeah,
this is where also small talk is fine. This is not a discovery. You're not trying to do proper discovery. You're just still talking about high level, trying to understand who they are, but most importantly, showing curiosity about them, telling them that I'm aware of the market's changes, something else is happening in the world, and how that has impacted your business and what new things are happening in your business. I think that comes across again. You're trying to earn that respect from this person that you're meeting for the first time.
yeah,
So that's a great point. The company, what your company does, and funny enough, I have been in a couple of demos, and obviously we, a little shameless plug here. Obama has this bot which joins your meetings, records, transcribes, and all of that stuff. And we have some famous competitors in this space. And so when I join our vendor's call, our bot shows up as well, and bot joins. And think about it. Now the prospect asks me, or the vendor asks me, "Hey, is this from this company? Our competitor name one or competitor two?" I'm like, "No, we compete with them. That's exactly the whole point of what we are doing here. So have you not had a chance to look at what we do?" And most of the times they have not. And that's where they lose the credibility. And immediately I'm like, "Oh, damn, that means they have not done anything, any research and all of that." So you're
yeah.
absolutely right. People do ask that question. And this is where that laziness is where it bugs me around more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah, and this also ties back to one of our previous episodes where we discussed, building predictable revenue, wherein you
Mm,
need to build those predictable habits. You go in and kind of schedule about say 15 minutes or so to do that minimal research. Unless you block time for that, you're not going to come in prepared, and then this is the kind of experience that we're going to give. But from here, let's transition to the discovery aspect. Now, I have a couple of opinions here.
mm,
When it comes to discovery, on one side there is this notion that hey, typically SDRs do the first level of discovery more like a qualification, trying to understand
mm,
whether it's inbound or outbound, doesn't matter, but they try to understand what this company is all about, like what is their revenue, how many employees, like what do they typically
mm,
need, and then they
mm.
move it to A's. So let's talk about the discovery at two levels. What kind of discovery should happen at the SDR level and at the AE level, and from there let's go to the next thing.
I probably have different opinions. There are better experts in this industry than I am. But I will look at this from our again modern SaaS lens perspective. I feel every time when you do the special discovery qualification only calls, I feel that's a bad experience to prospects. Think about it. Prospect is in the buying journey. Your call to action on your website is schedule a demo.
Yeah,
And when I schedule that meeting, what you end up doing is just discovery with me. And now it takes 15 minutes. Your SDR is asking me this series of questions, almost like an interrogation. Do you do this? Do you do this? That's what it happens. And I'm still eager to see the demo. And then they come and say, no, now you cannot see anything. So now you will schedule another call after another 2 weeks because my AE is not available and I'm going to
yeah,
schedule after 2 weeks. So isn't that a bad experience for buyers? Like I
absolutely.
was excited to see something, and I went through this interrogation process, and I'm still not able to see something immediately, anyways.
Yeah,
So I feel like, first of all, but I there are different schools of thought. People do want to do that, and I'm okay with that. That's totally fine as well. But if I want to combine the whole discovery and demo, people do these separate sessions. I like to actually combine them. The way I feel like you can probably have discovery and demo into one session.
mm,
And this is a problem. Separating this things out is probably more important problem for people who have really bad quality leads that are coming in, and they really need to qualify them. And
yeah,
probably that's already a maybe it's a great problem to have when you have so many leads. Most of the companies, the problem is that they don't have enough leads. So trying to add another friction point when you don't have, like, beggars cannot be choosers. You don't have leads. Why the heck are you adding more friction? Talk to as many people as much possible. Learn as much as possible. They might share a few other things. And that's what not people do. People will have this, oh, just because I have done this discovery in my previous company, I'm going to do the same discovery and demo separate calls.
Right.
But without truly understanding what's the lead flow that you have, what's how many leads that you're getting. So coming back to our original point, I like to think about you can do discovery and demo in just one meeting. And this demo does not need to be training session. It needs to be a preview. You can give a glimpse of them what you're going to show, and so that they feel that they're getting some value from that whatever the initial call that they booked with you. Now, people also think that, oh, we need to do discovery in the beginning and we need to do demo after that. So once I understand full discovery, then I'm going to go to the demo part itself. I also feel that's not the best experience, because when you think about, you're expecting to do discovery for first 15-20 minutes, maybe you schedule this call for 45 minutes to 1 hour, and the expectation is that first 20 minutes maybe you will do discovery. And so in the first 15 to 20 minutes, you're still again doing that interrogation, asking questions, asking questions, asking questions. And but the buyer is eager to see something, and then you probably see that you only have some time left in your meeting to do the demo, and then you rush through it as well. So the best way, in my opinion, is give little, take little. So the way I recommend our team typically to do the discovery is that, I don't know if you've heard about this framework called spin selling. And
No, I
if you have
haven't.
not,
Yeah.
essentially, it's a selling methodology. And the whole concept is that when you ask reps that, hey, you need to add discovery, guess what kinds of question reps starts asking? What CRM do you use? What conference system do you use? How many team members do you have? All these questions are situational questions.
Yeah.
Again, some of these things could be found already on your LinkedIn, their LinkedIn, and some other data tools that you can buy. And you can try to get more information. Yes, it may not be accurate, and that's okay. You can estimate that little bit of accuracy a little bit later on, but you can say, hey, it looks like you have 30 people on your team in the sales function.
At least
Is that
show you've
accurate?
come prepared. Yeah.
You have done research, you're prepared, and you're not wasting time on asking the basics of it. Sometimes prospects will tell all of this in without you asking, so that's great. There are very rare prospects like that, but they do exist. Let me tell you what spin selling is. So essentially, it's a situational questions, pain point questions. I think it's impact related questions, and I forgot what the N stands for. I think it's about need to something. And the philosophy was that most of the reps will ask simple situational questions to understand what's your current situation is, and they feel like, okay, I got enough information, I can qualify this, and I can start showing you the demo. That's where people do discovery wrong. You should skip the whole situational questions in the beginning. You can always do that when you're actually showing the demonstration of the product at
Yeah.
that time. Yes, sometimes there might be an important, like if they ask that, oh, we CRM that what we support and you are using something completely random CRM, then it could be a challenge. So you can identify, are there one or two critical things that you absolutely need to know to qualify or disqualify. But most of the situational questions, you should park it during the demo. And the way you can ask those questions when you're showing certain functionality, then you can say, hey, here's how our CRM integration works. By the way, which CRM do you guys use? So you're still asking that question, but at that time, you're also, when you're actually in the demo session, you're breaking that your demo monologue and making it conversational. You're showing
Yeah.
something and then you're asking them something.
This is absolutely fantastic. So I kind of thought about the recent experiences that I've had, and there was one community tool that I was searching for and having a demo with them, and I scheduled a demo with both of these companies, and I exactly had the same experience that you spoke about.
Mm,
I thought, okay, I've scheduled a demo with these people. These people will show me through the product. It would be a show and
mm,
tell session, and the first thing that happened was the meeting was scheduled for about 20 minutes. I was like, how can you cover
mm,
the demo in 20 minutes? And all that happened was questions after questions after questions. And then he said, okay, I'll schedule a demo with this person, which happened exactly after a week. And then again, they also came in prepared. but the preparation was more from the perspective of showing what all the product had. And this is one difference that I've observed there. And here within Avoma, on a daily basis, I love to listen to these sales conversations. And one thing that I've observed in the way you do demos is sometimes you might probably show only two or three things within the product. You might not show everything, and that
Yeah,
is purely based on what these people want the most.
yeah.
And with that, I'm like often surprised. You're just showing two things, but the deal is closed. I'm like, wow, how does this happen? So this is exactly what I wanted to dive in a little more as to what is a demo actually for. Is it to showcase the magnitude of your product, or is it to specifically show what does this person really care about?
Yeah, and when you think about it, the experience that you shared, you book the qualification call. Why does it take them 7 days to take that information and show you the demo in this modern SaaS world? Why?
Yeah,
Why cannot they show you something quickly when you are ready, when you're interested to learn more about them, when you're giving them that time?
yeah,
And I think this is exactly where the efficiencies, this all the sales organizations that they have because of these multiple broken processes, is why most of the companies are run really poorly from a sales efficiency point of view. And this is one of those things, like most of the people, when they look at Avoma, how we have been running with so little people and the growth that we are having, is because of these decisions that we have taken where we focus on the efficiency, we focus on the buyer's experience as our number one thing. And that's one of the things I still believe, that you don't need to show everything. What you're still doing is you're doing enough discovery to understand. Now, coming back to my earlier point, from the spin selling, the S part was situational. You should not try to ask as many questions because those are really simple questions. The good part of the question should be pain related questions. The P stands for pain.
yeah,
And it's difficult. It's very difficult for reps to change their habit, change their mind to start asking these questions. And there's also a difference where the close-ended questions versus open-ended questions. A lot of people probably know about this, but you would be surprised that how many people actually don't do that. They don't ask these open-ended questions. And when you think about it, close-ended questions are simply asking, does this make sense? Yes or no?
binary answer questions.
Right? So very, very short responses. Instead of doing that, you show something, you ask them something, and then you're asking questions based on, tell me more about what's your current workflow look like.
Yeah,
Tell me more about what happens when you're sharing this information internally in that workflow. Tell me more when you don't, your team, that team does not have this information available. What do they do? And in these ways, you're trying to understand their workflows. You're trying to understand the pain that they're going through. There is also a knack, an art of how you do this. Yes, as a salesperson, your whole goal is to sell your solution. But multiple times I've seen that you can state your objective, your benefit, your value proposition, reverse it in a way and put it in a question. All you have to do, you're just basically having your prospects to talk about those pain points that you wanted to sell your solutions for. And you can just reverse it that and convert those into questions and make it like an open-ended question and just ask those questions. That's where you're trying to still understand the pain that they're currently having and trying to capture that information. Now the next part is the impact. This is even harder, and even I struggle with this. When I read that book Spain Selling, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And it just changed completely. As an engineer who has no freaking clue of what sales look like, I think that was the holy grail, how I discovered how to be a great salesperson, is to just be genuinely freaking curious, nothing else. And you're just trying to understand how it works, what do they do. And then the next question comes to the impact. The I in the spin selling stands for impact. And what you're really trying to do is that whatever the problem that they're having, you're trying to retread that to them and asking them questions that, if you don't do these things today, how is going to impact your business goals that you mentioned early on.
yeah,
And then they're opening up even more. So somebody said that, let's say in our case, they will say, okay, it takes us 4 months for onboarding and for the ramp up, the reps ramp up.
yeah,
Then I might say, Would reducing that ramp up time in half, how would that impact your business? If we are able to demonstrate that, how would that impact your revenue targets or your hiring plans or your cost savings that you would have, where you're able to ramp reps in less than 50% of the time that you're currently expecting? And then they'll start talking, oh, then I will do this and I'll do that. It is hard. It doesn't come naturally. So it needs practice. You get better at these things. But being intentional about these topics is the most important thing that what reps don't do.
Yeah.
The easiest path is asking simple situational questions, and 95% reps I've seen just latch onto that. Even in Avoma, what people we've hired, and even when I'm talking to vendors, that is the number one thing I continue to observe. There's so much written about this, but so little I see in the practice, and it still boggles my mind that why these organizations are still not modern sales organizations are following this and making it, being just curious about prospects, problems, their world, and the impact that what some of the things that could have in my business and all of that.
Right.
So that's really what I felt like. What if I want to really highlight the discovery part? I would emphasize that read the spin selling book and keep practicing that and improve how you ask questions to your prospects and buyers.
Yeah, so this also kind of reminds me of a lot of things, even in the marketing world, right? So there is so much focus on execution that we forget the journey and the experience, and
Mhm.
that's so easily missed. Now, because you spoke about this experience of trying to understand the impact, I've also seen this kind of work in conversations where people are asking for a feature that we might or might not have. So
Mhm.
sometimes this so happens that people might say, hey, do you have this feature that your competitor X provides? And the moment you ask them this question as to, okay, what is that you're trying to accomplish with that? And then you hear what are they trying to do? And then you can showcase that, hey, what you already have now, you can use it this way to do that. So I think when we miss this impact question, we can often very easily come back and say that, oh, we don't have this feature, we need to develop this, put it in the development backlog. But yeah, I'm not saying you should not develop new features. Yes, you should. But at the same time, you need to also understand what is somebody trying to accomplish. I absolutely love that.
And you said it's something interesting. It's about objection handling.
Yeah.
So the whole most common advice again with the objection handling, which I keep giving feedback to our team, and I've seen with other people as well, that once your prospects has some kind of objection that can your product do this or what about this thing, the best response for objection handling is not to get worried and try to promise something that yes, oh, I'm sorry, being apologetic that oh, we don't have that functionality, but if you sign this and I sign an annual contract, we will make it happen for you. Let's sign this and that. If it's on the roadmap, feel free to talk about that. But the best response for objection handling is to ask a follow-up question. So when
Yeah.
prospects ask a question, do you have this or does it work like this way? You, instead of immediately jumping to answer, the best way is to, why do you want to do that? Tell me more. And then
Exactly.
shut the F up. Just shut up. Let them talk. Literally, it happened today morning. One customer came in and a prospect came in and they want to switch from our large competitor and they're not happy, blah, blah, blah. And they said, oh, we are still negotiating. And he said, but can you do this? And I said, what, tell me more what happened to your negotiations that you're having with your prospect or one of our competitors? Because
Yeah.
he just started with saying that this is what they're currently doing. And he didn't give me enough idea that is our competitor going to reduce the pricing? Are they going to change few things that they're not happy about? Otherwise, I will give all these answers. I will talk all the everything else. And then we'll realize afterwards that our competitor is anyway solving their needs. So
Yeah.
I need to know where their negotiations, where the conversations are before I start even answering my question. And the more I asked him, he kept giving me more things. Oh, they're not giving any, they're not budging at all, and it's really bad experience, and da da da. So now I know the pain points that they actually had, and now I also know that how more likely that they will be buying a Voma or not. And so that's why the best way to handle the objection is to ask a follow up question. And you said it, but that's a common feedback I give to
Yeah.
our team as well.
Right. So why does this happen? Is it because we have the urge to quickly answer, or is it lack of confidence in that moment?
I have one answer for that. The fundamental reason that most salespeople suck is because they're not curious. Point blank. The curiosity is about knowing you.
Yeah.
But when you think about selling, it's about me telling who I am or about us. And that is the whole shift is completely different. I will be showing you demo, I'll be showing you features. I'll try to get the next steps, I'll try to book the thing, I will pressure you for the month end, I'll try to give you discount because I have this primary goal to sell and I get it. But if you are genuinely curious and bring that curiosity to learn about them, learn about their problems, learn about the think about it, Yag. I'll tell you not. We are selling to some extent now. I wouldn't say it's a commodity yet, but it's a pretty well defined category product, conversation intelligence, revenue
Yeah.
intelligence. People have these calls that are to be recorded, and almost every alternate customer still has a completely different workflow, how they do certain things. How do they have outbound motion? How do they do handoffs? How do they do which tools they use? What system they have configured internally to do the handoff and all of that. And it's so stupid to believe that everyone falls in the same bucket and try to sell you everything what we do. But instead, if you try to ask them, tell me more, what's your workflow look like? What's your sales cycle look like? Why is it that long? What happens when the trial happens? Who else gets involved for the implementation? The more you understand, you're understanding the pain points in the workflows that they have.
Yeah.
And those are the nuances that you can leverage when you're delivering pitch or your demo. You're taking those cues from those conversations and then pitching them. You mentioned about this particular path or this particular workflow. Here is the feature that you can use to achieve that in much faster way compared to the way you are currently doing. And technically now we're getting into the actual demo part of it, but that's why I think people are not curious. Because you're not curious, you're not asking great questions, you're not pausing. One of the other things I tell people that just when you ask question and prospect gives you information, you don't have to immediately jump on to the next question. Process that, acknowledge that what you understood, think about it, let them also know that you're thinking.
Yeah.
And then you can ask a follow-up question based on that. Okay, you mentioned this, but this seems a little conflicting based on what we have seen. Why is it so? Now they'll talk about their world, that how unique their world is. And when you make them feel that their world is unique, oh, this is interesting. First of all, they feel heard. They feel that
Exactly.
somebody is understanding me. Somebody is interested in my workflow, which is, and think about it. If I tell you, yeah, is everything going great in content marketing in Agoma? Is all process, everything figured out? Is all engine worked out well? Well, you would
I'll have
absolutely not.
lots to say.
Exactly, right? Now imagine if someone gives you ear to vent it out, all the frustrations and problems that we're having in our current processes. You'll say, oh, this is broken, I'm not having this attribution, I'm not able to track this, I'm not able to scale that thing. And now you learn their problems, you learn what how broken their world is, and what
Yeah.
our product can do, what we can do, how can we fix some of those things. And that's what I feel the curiosity is the number one thing I feel what the rep should be bringing in these discovery and the demo calls.
Right. No, absolutely love this and can't agree more. And now let's, shift gears to the most important part that happens, which tends to be broken. Once you do the discovery, once you do the demo, and then, there are the the commitment or some sort of next step or the kind of action that we seek at the end of the conversation, because we don't want to have loose threads hanging where we have not decided what next to do. But there is also a certain art in seeking that commitment. We cannot just say, okay, when do we schedule the next meeting, but for what? Do I have something to do before I come back to you and help answer your question or something like that? So how best can we make sure that there is a nice little workflow that happens once the demo finishes?
Actually, I think we should have talked about few other nuances of the demo part. Now,
Yeah.
the more you talked about it, I started realizing that how few things people still do bad. But let me answer your question right now.
Yeah.
The next steps, you want to discuss those and you want to schedule those things. Obviously, the most common advice every sales leader gives to sales reps is you got to have next step booked in the meeting itself. If it's not, then the deal is not progressing, right?
Yeah.
And Most of the times you will try to do that in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the session, and then you're rushing through it. The best time to discuss the next step is in the first 5 minutes. When you're setting the agenda of the conversation, you're saying, hey, here is how I'm going to show you a few things. We're going to learn about few things about you. I'm going to show you key areas, key functionalities. It's not going to be a comprehensive demo. I'm not going to show you every single bells and whistles. We'll do additional demo based on your interest. I'm going to give you a quick preview. But what I would like to do, we do have few options as the next steps. Typically, when we talk to people, based on what they see, they're willing to try it out. And so we have a trial process. We'll explain how that works. If not, I understand you need to schedule few additional demos with additional people, so we can schedule that in this session. If not, you need to share this information with additional people, and you need that confirmation and some kind of mutual action plan, or what those next steps should look like, is what you're discussing with them at the beginning.
Yeah.
And what you're really saying is that if I show you everything based on the information that you share, and if in the first 20-30 minutes of our conversation, if you feel that we have everything what you're looking for, would you be open to have these follow-up detailed demo or trial? Are you open for that? Now you're already setting that constants that I'm going to ask you that when I'm coming to an end of the conversation. And that's really what the next steps, better to set them at the first 5 minutes rather than the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's one thing that I feel a little counterintuitive here. Maybe you can throw a little more light on it. Is that, see, unless we give them something, we cannot ask for more commitment. So how viable is it to ask for some sort of a commitment right at the beginning, just by giving an overview of what's going to happen?
And that's what I said. If you understood the way I asked question, I said, like, based on the goals that you shared, if I demonstrate you the functionality, and if you find that that will solve the problems that you're telling me,
Got it.
would you be willing to have additional, maybe a trial session, or would you be open to have additional demo booked to
Right.
follow up? And you can be also frank. Look, most of the time, based on who are you selling, that hey, you understand that once you see this thing and you go back to your world, you have 100 other priorities, and so things
Yeah.
are going to get derailed. In the interest of making sure that this process is efficient for both of us, would you be open to have another touch point if you like everything what you're showing you, if you
Yeah.
think that there is even mildly interesting function that we have, and you think that there is a need for that? If there's no need, if there's no compatibility, if you're not a fit, obviously we're not asking you to have that commitment for the sake
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Makes
you're
sense.
qualifying them that, and then you're trying to set that expectations properly.
Right. Right. Makes sense. So you wanted to add some points about demo. Let's also talk about that before we go towards the end of it.
Yeah, so the thing about, we were talking about this earlier on, when we get into after discovery, when we start getting the demo as well, there are multiple ways how people do demo. There are PowerPoint based demos, there are some directly product based demos as
Product
well.
demos. Yeah.
Again, and I've still seen people just go through this entire PowerPoint slide deck. Nobody cares about who are your biggest customers. Nobody cares about how much funding you've raised and who your investors are. I don't want to see that. I would do that research. I've already probably done that research. That's why I'm booking the meeting with you. And it's okay to bring that information in part of the conversation, but don't have those slide decks and people are just going through scripted things.
Yeah.
So I would still keep slides. I'm not completely against slides. I actually like to keep slides, but not more than 3 to 4 slides. That should
Right.
be the rule. What you're really sharing in slides, that few things. What is the status quo in the current industry that's happening right now? Maybe your competitors, everyone else, what they're trying to do, what they are solving. And immediately add, how are you different? What's your point of view? Why do you exist? There has to be some reason that your point
Yeah.
of view that you exist in the world when you have all these 6 or 7 competitors. Bring that head on in the second minute of your presentation. So immediately you're setting the context. They have been evaluating other vendors. So
Yeah.
they have a lens that you're telling, here's what everyone else has been selling to you. They go like, yes, here's why we still exist, even though those guys are there.
Yeah.
We are not just yet another Me Too. And that's your opportunity to educate them. So many times when I've done this strategy, customers go like, holy shit, this is a completely refreshing perspective. We never thought about this way. Or this was such a refreshing perspective to immediately tell how are you different. Because
Yeah.
that is what they are here to know. How are you different than the other vendors? And so that they could make their buying decision easier. So when
Yeah.
you address that head on, you're still keeping the control in yourself and you're giving that perspective to them. And then the third slide, I typically would say that if anything that you want to take away from this entire 30 minutes, 40 minutes of the conversation, these are the three things that you should take away. And what are those three things? Just have them remember some few bullets. Because after that 30 minutes, you're going to show this, throw these all these features at me. Do you believe that I'm going to remember everything? Do you believe I'm going to remember all the talk tag patterns and everything that you shared? Probably not.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
How do you tell customer that remember these three things? When you end this call, if I want you to take away anything from this call, these are the three things. And they're already like, okay, this one, do those, these things. Now they are doing that study to remember those things. And they're already your brainwash them to take these three things away from this conversation. And with those three slides, I would immediately go and do the show and tell. Now, even the show and tell is almost like a show. When I'm setting the stage, I'm saying, now what you're going to see, I'm giving them an agenda. Maybe not visual agenda, but I'm just telling them there are three personas that our platform gets used by. Maybe the end user, maybe the manager, and maybe the admin. Today, I'm going to talk about maybe this persona only. Hopefully, probably knowing who this person that is with you in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't have to show every single thing for all the three personas. You can try to immediately jump on based on who is in front of you. Say that I'm going to show you things related to this persona first. And then we will also talk about if there's an interest, we can also go to this persona. So now you're constantly setting this stage for them that what to expect in the next few minutes. And let's say if anyone, once I explain them, here's the person I'm going to show you, I also tell them that I'm going to divide the next 10 minutes into these three phases. I'm going to talk about this before the workflow, this during the workflow related things, and this is after the related things.
Yeah.
And so now again, they understand, okay, that's how I'm going to navigate. So every single time you're giving those, you're setting the context, you're giving them the what's coming next kind of a preview. And now I say, okay, let's start here for this persona, the before the related workflow, and here are the three things I'm going to show you. And the one common mistake everyone does, we immediately start showing features. This is the feature. You can create snippet, you can share this, you can comment this. Wrong. Why do I care about commenting? Why do I care about sharing? Why do I care about this note taking? Now reverse those features into benefits. You can, this is where your discovery comes in also. You can do a little bit of demo versus discovery. You can say, hey, how do you currently share voice of the customer with your product team or marketing team today? Well, we have the Zoom recording and then we share the recording and then we tell them that they can listen to this thing. Okay. Do people go back and listen to those things? Well, not all the time, all of that. How about if I show you within a matter of seconds, you can actually create this snippet, drop it into a playlist, and they get notified. And that's how to share the voice of the customer, you can leverage this functionality. So if you show a functionality, tell me where I can use that feature. What is my current workflow where I'm going to use this? What is my current workflow? I'm going to replace it. What is my current workflow? I'm going to augment it. That's how I'm trying to sell that feature. I'm not just showing you you can share snippet. Yeah, I can see that you can do that, but I'm looking at it. Where would I use this? Why do I need this? This looks cool. This is very well designed. All great. But what is my current workflow? And what you're trying to do as a salesperson is you're saying that what are your current workflows where you do these things? And then I'm not trying to tell you either you replace that damn thing, that the older Stone Age thing that you're doing, or you augment that workflow with this functionality. And now they think that, oh, I didn't even think about that. This is amazing. Because when they come to see you, they have been trained by your competitors to look at the world in a
Yeah.
certain way. That I just need this, I just need revenue intelligence, I just need transcription. But now you have to educate them about what their workflows are that your product can solve. And you ask those questions, and then that's how you sell those features. And that needs to happen all the way around. You
Yeah.
won't need to show all the features, but you show few features, but let them walk away that this actually fits my workflow right now, or this workflow that I have is completely broken that nobody is solving, and these
Yeah.
guys are going to solve that problem. That's what they remember, that's what they go and take away. And there's another book called Challenger Sale, and the
Yeah.
whole goal is of Challenger Sale philosophy is that you're challenging, you're educating the customer that this is what the new way of doing things.
Yes.
And that's what I feel what you should be doing in those demos as well. But again, there are a lot of nuances, yeah. But this is, I thought, it's a very critical point. I always tell people about this. Don't sell features, don't show features. Talk about the workflows, and then through that, tell them that this is how you would use these features to solve your those workflows.
I'm absolutely loving this conversation because I'm so happy that we decided to record this, because I think this deserves not just this one conversation, but maybe into a blog or multiple formats, because this idea needs to reach more people. Because at the end of the day, whether it's sales or marketing or customer success, this is about what they want and how do we facilitate that experience, keeping them as the base of everything. So I'm absolutely loving this. So one thing, if I have to summarize this whole piece, I would say the first thing I really took away from this is the way to do a small talk, how
Mhm.
to kind of do that basic research and
Mhm.
start with something that shows them that, hey, I've understood you, but yeah, I'm open to learning more. And then
Don't be
uh,
lazy.
exactly, that's on the head, right? So don't be lazy. And then second is the discovery and demo needs to go hand in hand so that the process is more smooth. And the key takeaway within that is keep your curiosity at the highest possible level so that you
Yes.
learn more and contextualize. Probably even if you're showing one or two things, let's do the best to make sure that it makes an impact. And
Yeah.
then finally, the piece that I really loved is taking that commitment quite early by giving them a snapshot. In a way,
Yeah.
it also feels like one of those TV shows where before they go into a commercial break, they tell
Hmm.
you what's coming next, giving that perspective and then taking that commitment. So
Yeah.
these are my four large takeaways. Am I missing anything?
No, and the demo part, don't show features,
Yeah.
solve their workflows, talk about
Yeah.
their workflows.
Right. Amazing. So I think that is a good place for us to wrap this episode. But let's make it more interesting. Maybe in the future episodes, let's also bring in our sales leaders into the conversation and deep dive on some of these topics. So any
Yeah.
parting words, Aditya?
No, I think that is definitely because this topic, while we covered these things, there are a lot of elements to it. So I'm sure that this is not just one and all topic that we will be talking
Yeah.
about. There are multiple, as we talked about, objection handling itself is such a big topic. Even
Yes.
discovery, going deeper into how to do those discoveries from the impact related questions, situations versus all of those things. And I think the best people that we should be definitely bringing on, some of our leaders, some of external leaders, we should
Yeah.
keep doing that definitely more and go deeper into this topic.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So for all the viewers and listeners today, that's that from us in this episode. And until we connect with you the next time with one of our internal leaders or an external leader, let's stay in touch and keep sharing your feedback with us as you always do, and we'll continue to do the best from our episodes.
I think the most important thing, if you're a listener, if you listen to this podcast until end, do let us know, do you agree with these things? Because
Yeah.
these are our point of views, and some of these things are working. Obviously, that's why we're sharing. And our main goal, we are looking at all these things from a modern SaaS perspective. There are all these advisors out there that people have been sharing that do this, the old sales kind of advice has been there. We are trying to question those things, like why do people do that thing still today? Is it the buyer friendly experience? If you don't believe some of our thoughts, do let us know, because
Yeah.
we want to also understand your pure viewpoint and probably improve our journey with some of the things that we do as well. So I hope you will share your thoughts, comments, and feedbacks, maybe privately on LinkedIn or on YouTube channel and comments there. So looking forward to hearing from you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much once again. That's that from us in this episode.
Thank you. Bye bye.